Good day, everybody. It's your girl, Shaina Herrera, and welcome to another episode of Upfront with Shaina Herrera. Today, we have a very special individual. You ever heard that saying, jack of all trades, master of none? Well, that's not the case with this gentleman right here. Politician, podcaster of 50,000, 5011, for those who know what that term is, podcast, head of technical design. I hope I'm saying that correctly, but
senior manager of technical development.
Senior manager of technical development. That sounds like a lot of hard shit. Anyway, with no further ado, I'd like to welcome you, Joe, to the show. Thank you for coming on and
thanks for having me.
All of your energy and your time. I really, really appreciate. We had to reschedule a couple times, but it's all good. That's the kind of guy he is.
Yeah.
Flexible. We like flexible. Anyway, how are you? Welcome,
good.
Captain Joe.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be a guest on a podcast rather than to be the host. So I don't have to do what you just did.
Right. and in my mind, it was like, don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up.
And it happens.
Joe's watching. So there's so many facets to your career, and for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, our why for the show is so that we can highlight individuals that look like us who are in the fashion, entertainment, marketing industry, and you would just never know. They're the ones that are making the world go round. They're the reason why you get to wear the shoes that you wear in Joe's case, and why they fit so well. But hopefully. In addition to that, hopefully. No, they do. I've tried to make it fit well. Right, but I think more importantly, especially in your journey, Joe, it's really important for people who look like us to understand that we don't have to follow one specific path. And you can kind of do both in a sense. Because like we mentioned earlier, you have several successful podcasts, which is incredible. And I don't even know how you don't look tired. I'm exhausted. And
because I'm fat. No. That's hiding all the wrinkles.
That's not it. No. But yeah, I just want to, one, give you your flowers. And then also I want to share with the audience how you're doing it, how you got to where you are now, and how you're managing it, and all the bumps in between.
Sounds good. Yeah.
But yeah, so it begins. Just take us from the very beginning.
So for me, I started out as a retail manager at a Hallmark card store. And
I love Hallmark.
Yeah. That was 2000. And it was, I remember like it was yesterday. It's over 20 years ago. But I was just a retail associate. I moved my way up to management, and then, JCPenney had gone out of business.
Right.
And it killed our store. And I needed to find new employment. I was in school and my mother got sick. So it was like, okay, I need to hop into something really good, really quickly. So I went to I stumbled in the industry not too differently than most folks, but I stumbled in it through a staffing agency because to this day, I have a very unique ability to be like a stenographer.
Okay.
And so to speak, if you talk, I can pretty much type whatever it is you're saying. And that led me to open a doorway into the shoe business. First, I was a sample coordinator.
Okay.
For Enzo Angelini. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Enzo.
I am familiar.
You are familiar.
I've heard it. I've definitely heard it.
So years ago, there used to be this heavy brand named Enzo Angelini, and I was the assistant sample coordinator for that.
Okay.
That's how I started out. And then I was there for about 4 months. And the sample manager, the boss of all the sample coordinators, was like, you know what? You'd probably be better in tech because I see how fast you type.
Right. And
they need somebody to like kind of, handle that. And I was like, yeah, sure. Okay. So I transitioned into that. And lo and behold, they closed the office and moved us into New York City, and that's typical of fashion industry. They like, hey, this is expensive. Let's move, or hey, we're not where everything's happening. We need to get out of here, out in the country almost in Westchester, and go into New York City where all the fashion is. So they shut the doors down and moved us all into New York City. In New York City, I expanded what I was doing. I was learning a lot more. And there was several individuals that really gave me a really big head up, like a mentor. The first guy that got me into the business, the one who hired me, we had a lot of parallels in our lives.
Right.
And he's still a friend to this day. I just ran into him a couple of weeks ago, and he does custom shoemaking now.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it's really cool.
In the business, that's good.
Still in the business. He's a young dude. He's only like 6-7 years older than me.
Okay.
But he got me the foot in the door, and then this older gentleman who retired, he really took me to the second level of the journey. And then the industry is such a circular place. The individual that lifted me up to my next level is now my current boss. So
okay.
Yeah, so like it's just
mentioning that.
Yeah. It's a weird circle of life in the fashion and especially the shoe industry.
But that's an important highlight though, because a lot of times, bridges get easily burned. You just never know when it's going to come back around to help you. So I think that's just one of the things that people that are coming behind us really need to understand, that relationships still matter, and how you leave a situation, whether it was on your own accord or not, is like super, super important, which I think is really missed on. I hate to say it this way because then it means that I'm not a part of the generation, but the younger generation.
We are the younger generation. No.
That's what I try to say. I like to believe. I don't know. Okay, so your current boss, you were working with him at the time,
right? He was a boss. He wasn't my direct boss. I worked with another individual, and he basically said, well, what are you doing? You should be here. And there was this other person that was above him that was constantly being spoken to by somebody else that kind of had his own vision for me, which was out the door.
Right.
And, this guy was like, no, that's a mistake. And so this guy was right. That guy left, not on his own accord.
Gotcha.
And and I got into the role that essentially I am in now.
Okay.
At a different level, because I ended up, that company that I worked for so long, for 14 plus years, went bankrupt. So I ended up doing children's shoes for a long time.
Wow.
I did children's shoes for about 4 years. I had a great experience with the mentors and the people there. I'll never forget anybody there, because you learn so much. Like, you think you know things, and then you go into kids like, all right, it's just shrinking everything down.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, no, you have to do all this testing, and So I was a QA associate for 4 years. It's quality assurance. And I had to learn the ins and outs of Bureau Veritas, which is the testing standards for a lot of products that come into the United States. I had to learn what the whole phrase of CPSIA means. And that's in order to get shoes and items into the United States, you have to pass all these rigorous testings in order to make sure your product is safe. So, it's amazing how much you learn in a short amount of time, but at the same time, it takes a long time to get the knowledge you need to just be at the level where you're like, okay, I understand things.
Right. Like before you get your sea legs, there's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
Okay. So just so that we're clear, because this is always a hot topic for a lot of people, especially parents. University, did you go?
Yeah, I went to several. Yeah.
World tours, okay.
Yeah, I did a couple of world tours. Ironically, so I'm a biracial child, and then my mother is African American, my father's German Portuguese, and I was getting into college and EOP, and then my mother had done very well for herself before she got sick. And they looked at her pay, and they're like, oh, no way. And I got kicked out. you can't get in here. And then like it was so expensive that I was like, oh, I can't afford this on my own. And my mom was like, oh, you could take loans. And I was like, I don't want to be in $20,000 of credit card debt. So I skipped around and I went to Berkeley. I went to Westchester Community College, got my associates, and then I was in what was it? SUNY Purchase for like a hot second, and then it just wasn't my vibe. You know, but the be all the end all is the experience you get. Because, you know, you think, hey, so when I went to Berkeley, that's where I incurred my only debt. And I did very well in my 2 semesters at Berkeley. So, you know, I need to go and finish it just because I want that. Oh, I did it, you know.
Right.
But I do have a lot of educational knowledge underneath my belt. I'm an avid reader. It's important when you're doing podcasting and taking dictation and kind of setting the standards or reading policies and various testing reports. You have to know all the lingos and everything. So I always think it's best that people should have some type of education under their belt, but don't spend a fortune on it. It's not like it used to be. And I think companies are realizing that real world experiences matters more than a piece of paper.
1000%. Some might say I have a little chip on my shoulder. I say it's not so little. Okay? I spent a gajillion dollars for university, and I got a degree that says I'm qualified to do what I'm doing now. However, nice. Didn't teach me boohoo cat about what I'm doing now, nor the bulk of my knowledge that got me to where I am now is what I learned on the job.
Right.
So it's like, all right, either you guys change the curriculum to enable people to actually get positions, or the people offering the positions realize that it's really more important that we train up these people so that they can actually do the job if they have the talent to do so, and they know how to put a few words together and learn how to
it's not only that, it's like understanding simplistic ways to say something, because when you're dealing with a lot of folks that English is not their first language,
correct,
sometimes it's not even their second language,
right,
you want to make it as simple as possible so that when they try to translate it, they don't get lost. Because I worked with several designers in my years that have just been very word friendly, and they're very, you know, they have a very way with words that's very nice, but at the same time you have to realize that who you're dealing with matters. And when you're dealing with somebody that's doesn't get all the fancy words and doesn't have that prestige, it's best to keep it simple, stupid.
Drill it down.
KISS. It's the best way to do it, for sure.
All right. So we went to university. We got out of university, or just
I was unceremoniously left to the university. I didn't get the ceremony.
It was a salad bar. It was a cornucopia. It's okay.
Yeah. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Yeah.
All right. So that takes us into the next segment, which you kind of already touched on, but I really want to give it some shine. Our next segment is your big break or my big break.
So the first, I would say I had 2 big breaks in the industry. I had my initial break to get all the base knowledge that I have coming in, which was when I was working on that first company.
Yeah.
In 2004. So many years ago. Nobody was alive.
All the years.
Yeah, all the years. So that was my first big break, because I was in a whole new situation. I was able to elevate my lifestyle at the time. I was able to get new skills, because there's certain things that you don't learn in college and certain things you don't learn in the neighborhood.
Right.
So here's a company that opened the doorway to a whole new thing. It was processes and SOPs and things, standards and procedures, as they're known, and all these wonderful things that I got to learn. I got to learn where the last was. And a last is a mechanical form shaped like a human foot used by shoemakers in order to manufacture or repair shoes. It's basically like the core of the inside of the shoe that you put your foot in. That's where the last goes, and they pull the leather or material over it so that they can put the shoe together. So that's like the key component to making a shoe. So basically, I learned all about that. I didn't even know my job existed. It wasn't one of those things where it was like, yeah, it wasn't one of those things where I was like, yeah, I really want to do this my whole life from when I was a kid.
No, that's perfect, because again, a lot of people don't know that these positions and these career paths are even possible. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that you didn't know that I didn't know that any of this existed either. And it was like, well, what the heck did I think was what did I think I was gonna do? It was like a mixture of Sex in the City and
I'm going to be like the Sex in the City girl.
Yeah. But no, I'm glad you said that, because there's a lot of opportunities that people just don't know about, and they're great opportunities if you get a break into said thing, because they don't teach you these things in school.
They don't.
There was that chip again.
Yeah. I mean, the weird thing with what my section of the industry is it moves with the production manufacturing. So like my first shoe dog boss, he had his own factory in Brooklyn. It was his uncle's factory that he took over for a while.
Wait, your shoe dog?
Shoe dog, yeah. I mean, somebody that's like in the trenches of making shoes, knows the ins and outs of how it's done.
I didn't even know that was a term.
Yeah, and they're very passionate about it. They'll argue with you because they think that no, you got to use 0.04 mil thermoplastic, not what's wrong with you,
Okay.
Yeah, and they were great. They're still great people. I still talk with them. I still reach out and be like, hey, what's up? How you doing?
Yeah.
But they're the ones that kind of get your feet wet, so to speak.
Okay.
And that was my first big break into the industry. The first time I switched from the sample manager, which is like completely unpack shoes, split them up, send them out, to setting up showrooms, learning what factory codes were to get shoes into the United States and all those things. And then I went into the tech world, and at first I was doing like confirmations. I was just getting I would get stacks of papers, maybe like 6-7 inches thick, and I would have one paper, type with one hand, okay, and they were like, whoa. So I would do like maybe 50, 60 in a couple of hours, and I would just burn through them, and they were like, whoa. And I was like, well, have a good night. And they're like, where are you going? It's like, I'm going home. I'm done. Do you guys need something? I'll help you out. They're like, no, you're really quick there. And I was like, yeah, want to go home.
Yeah, I want to go home.
I have video games to play.
Things to do.
No, at the time, like I was becoming what's called a district leader.
Okay.
And I was getting involved in politics because when I made my journey into this next level, I ended up taking over my family home. My grandmother had gotten sick, had to go into a nursing home. My mother wasn't completely on stable footing. So I stepped in to do the right thing to keep the family together and make sure that my childhood home wasn't lost at the time.
Well,
that's another story.
Amazing.
Yeah. But at that time, and I did it and I held it up and I stayed there for another like 17 years. So it was quite compelling. Run. Yeah, it was a good run. And that was the first time. The second time is I was doing the kids brands, and the knowledge base was great. Every day you would learn something new. The tourniquet issues, like you can't have bows at a certain length, because if a kid puts their finger in the bow and then they spin it, they could end up breaking their skin or something terrible could happen.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there was a lot of things, components and issues that you had to learn in order to make children's shoes. It's a whole different world, because you're not thinking as an adult, you're like, I can tie my shoelace and go the merry old way. But as a kid, it's like, I can't tie my shoelace, but this is fun, so
I'm gonna wrap my finger up in this.
Yeah. So there was a lot of like intricacies that I had to learn, and it gave me a knowledge base that expanded me, but financially I wasn't going anywhere. And then I got a random phone call from a good buddy of mine, whom was my last boss at the company that went under. And that guy taught me a ton. Like I would almost say like a pet project. He was like, you got to do this, and then when you do this, make sure you always like mark the shoe and do this, and oh, you got to watch out for people like this. Like he was total mentor, and
really took you under his wing.
yeah. A lot of folks do, because I like to listen and I also like to talk, but I like to, I'll BS with you, like just shits and giggles, but I'll make sure that information is properly passed, and I'll get into the trenches, so to speak, and handle all the business. I've gone toe to toe with VPs at not a senior level and come out on top at times.
Tell us more.
Well,
because it happens, and
it does. Sometimes, sometimes folks have to realize what their place is. We're all human at the end of the day, but
absolutely.
Sometimes people go on screaming fests, but you won't get under my skin that way. I grew up in a neighborhood where people scream all the time, so that's not going to do anything for me. So you can scream and you can shout and you can be red in the face, but it's not going to affect me. And I'm still going to treat the situation as if there's with urgency and give it my absolute all to ensure that everything is handled in a correct way. But sometimes people don't realize that like, for example, an Excel sheet, if you're typing in an Excel sheet and then you don't expand the cell, you don't modify it to wrap text, and some of the text is off screen and they don't see it, and they didn't even realize to hit on there. And I was like, oh, no, it's there, just click, and then there it was. You see,
there it is.
You always have to have your ducks in a row. So
it
was that type of thing. It was like the little details that drove him nuts. And then in time I worked with him, and I worked to ensure that they understood that my purpose wasn't just to mish everything together. I was dealing with 23 brands at the time. And I'm 23.
How were you navigating that?
Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, they were different people. Yeah, they were different people, and they split up a lot of it, but I had to just manage it. So the focus would be on one brand one day, and then later half the day would be another brand. It wouldn't, all 23 wouldn't be, hands-on at first at that moment.
So your organizational skills have to be top tier at that point.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. And as time went on and the brands got cut, it made it easier to organize, and I would get fancy with it and I'm going to start making labels and all those things. But it was I was overwhelmed, and I navigated through it. I definitely had issues where certain things that I thought this could work fine, and I wasn't realizing, hey, you can't reach that, and some shoes fell back and now you can't find them. You need a step ladder. You know what I mean? It was like those things I totally got. It's like, no, when I was wrong and it was my fault, I would shut up and be like, I'm working on it, man, I swear to God. I'm like, sweating. Like, you ever see that meme of Jordan Peele where he's like drew that was me, but yeah, you just had to keep on, and then once you got everything in the right order, it worked a lot smoother. And you have to be open to criticism. You don't take it personally,
right?
In the end of the day, they have to have a certain amount of things go a certain way, and if it doesn't, then it hits the fan and everybody's in trouble because the business hurts. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so that said, you mentioned something. You kind of breezed by it, but we're gonna breeze on back to it.
Oh, we breeze a lot here.
We breeze by it. I want to go into your transition from tech, because it sounded like it was tech, design, and fashion, and then you mentioned something about politics.
Yes. So while I was at that first job, and I was there maybe my 4th year,
right,
there was a big mayoral election, and I was noticing that my taxes had gone up 15%, and I was like, let me speak to your manager. So I said, all right, no. And I was a catalyst in the regime change at that time. in my city, and I worked hard. I went door to door. I learned
You
so
were in
much
the
canvassing.
trenches.
What's that?
You were in the trenches. That 15% made you mad.
Oh, it did. Yeah, I was like, "What? How much?" Because it was literally the difference between $2,800 a month and $3,100 a month.
Yeah.
And at that time, I wasn't making
Right.
wasn't
Wow.
that set in order to be able to go, "Oh, yeah, whatever." No, I
Right.
was like, "Oh, that hurts a lot," because when you're a homeowner, this is why I'll never own a home again. And your home is older than your grandparents' age combined, it becomes very expensive because all of a sudden, what's that noise? Oh, the pipe just burst. It's like, oh,
man.
how much is that going to cost? Because I don't know plumbing. Oh, about $500, And then they come in your house like, wow, this is a big house. $5,000, the costs change quickly when they see it. So, wow, look at this place, I was in one of those big old houses, like 2,500 square feet.
Oh my goodness.
6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, massive place.
Just you?
Just at the end, it was just me. Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
I was like, what am I doing? This is ludicrous. And I short sold the place.
Out of there.
But yeah, I got into politics because I wanted a regime change because I didn't like the trajectory of where it was going. If you think about it, a 30% increase between back-to-back years is going to be astronomical to somebody that's not really getting the cost of living index every year, because the economy goes up, the economy goes down. It's not a straight line, it's not a road, it's a hill and valley.
Right.
So, if you get like a Sublime, which is great, but then it drops and then everything's off kilt. And when that happens, they go, "Oh, sorry, kid. Well, I got any money for you." So, I said, all right, I got to get involved in this and canvas and everything. And sure enough, I convinced enough people in the district that I was in charge of to vote out the old regime and vote in the new regime.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I ran for re-election and lost by 2 votes. So whenever everybody tells you your vote doesn't matter, it matters.
It matters.
I lost by 2 votes.
Oh,
it was painful.
I was
like,
that out.
Wow.
They run the numbers.
They run the numbers at the end. It was me. And the other thing is, like, I got to give myself credit because I did run against somebody that now is a sitting judge, but who ran for a citywide position. Her name was on billboards. Her face was on billboards and lawn signs everywhere in the city. Everybody knew her. I was running against her in her neighborhood. Well, she ran against me because I was in her neighborhood. And I lost by 2 votes. And what kills me is the person it was supposed to be like, you have your team, they have their team.
Right.
In reality, it was bedlam, which means any one person can be on top and any second person is the follow-up. So it didn't really matter. The teams didn't matter. I should have just run by myself because then I would have won. So politics is tricky. And if you get involved, you got to read the fine print, man. You speak to the manager.
Speak to the manager.
Yes.
Okay. So was this happening simultaneously while you were still in fashion?
Yes. This was simultaneous. So when I came home,
I'm like, why don't you look tired?
Yeah,
like,
exhausted. I told you because I fill it up good. Chocolate. So what ended up happening was, I 9 to 5 shift. Everything was in order. I shipped all my shoes out to the factories, got all my information sent to the factories for production.
Right.
I'd come home. I'd hit a neighborhood, get all my signatures for my petitions, head up to the main office at the Democratic headquarters because it was a Democratic city. So that's what you got to. Another thing people realize that when you're in a city, you got to find out what the main political power source is, because in my time in politics, if you have a split city where it's pretty even, it doesn't matter what your political alignment is. But when you're in a city like I was, it was Democratic or nothing. If you wanted to be in the mayor's office or in any elected standing official's position, you had to beat the primary opponent. That was the election. The general election didn't matter. You chose, my name's on the Democratic line. I got this. I don't have to do nothing. It's over. It usually ends at the primary season. So primaries are super important when you have a one-party structure, which is also not good. I don't believe in a one-party structure. I believe that we should have at least 3 to 4. Should be options. So, but yeah, the main thing is you get get your work done, you get home, and then you, instead of playing video games, I went out and said, you don't raise taxes on me anymore.
Right. They're going 15%.
15% was a killer. I was like, are you serious? This is insane. So yeah, it's that. It's I'm one of those people that has an ambition, and I wanted to run for higher office. I didn't, because I got involved, and then when I got involved in a one party system, it was like, okay, so Peter's robbing Paul to pay the piper. There's all these deals that are made not in your presence, and there's all these people that want the same thing, and they found a way to break the system and break through and take out the person that I helped put in. So it was, it was pretty much all faltered, and you couldn't get it back because there was too many factions, and everybody split up into factions, and they were just gobbling each other up to the point where I think the city lost the hospital in the long run. Yeah, it was crazy.
What a mess.
It would be a mess. So I was like, meh, I guess I should move. And then I sold my house and moved.
I love the way that you operate, though, because it sounds like it's like nothing's really like unworkoutable. Like it's like, all right, I don't like this 15%. I'm going to do something about it while I have my full-time job. All right, this is not working anymore. I'm just going to move. Like that's a lot of people don't. For me, no, I got to shake somebody down. I need it to go my way a little bit, at least. Yeah. It's a little bit. I got to figure it out somehow.
One of the biggest lessons of my life came from a TV show that I was obsessed with. And I mean, you can really see there's a poster right there.
I see it.
Yeah. And then there's a guy next to me. I met the actor, but both actors. There was an episode called Our Man Bashir, and it basically reminded me that sometimes you have to lose in order to win. So like the whole system was working against him, and there was no way he could win, and he kept trying and realized, wait a minute, me keeping on is not going to solve this. Right. You have to look at this from another perspective, look on the outside of the whole situation, and then come back and then realize, yeah, that was the way to go.
Right.
So sometimes you have to lose to win, because you learn from your mistakes. Oh, you can see things when you take a step back after you're beating and go, oh, I see what went wrong here. And you learn from that and move on. You got to learn, though. You can't just keep losing and be like, I don't know nothing. You gotta come away with something. And for me, it was a lot. I was like, ooh, politics ain't my game. I'm very good in a crowd. I'm very good speaking to people. I've gotten a lot better with public speaking for some reason. I used to do acting. I was on the stage when I was in high school and college.
Okay.
And then it was weird. And then once college hit, I had this weird thing happen to me where I had a hard time speaking to more than 20 people.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. And then ironically, it broke when I got involved in church.
Okay.
And then I still had the problem in church.
Lord saved you.
The Lord saved you. He said, Joe.
Wait,
hold on. Joe. No. No, but it was my pastor retired, and I had to give a small speech, and it was 200 people in the congregation that come in to say to give their retirement respects. And I kind of got over it. It was like, hey, so I just I worked with them for so long. I was the reason why the church was able to get the message across, because I had done the videography. I took over the whole program and said, this is what we're going to do. We can't meet in person, so you're going to record at home. Everybody's going to get a microphone. Everybody's going to get a green screen. I'm going to put all this together.
Wow.
Chroma key it, and then we'll get the message. And it did really well. They had from 15, 16 views to 2, 3, 4,000 views.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was a huge change, and it was for the better. And
okay, let's just break this down. Joe has a full-time gig, and it's not easy. Trust me.
Tough job,
I've seen it. You have 75 podcasts.
I have 4 podcasts. That's not 75, 4.
4 podcasts.
My channel has a bunch, and the beauty of that is I'm kind of helping certain other channels do their thing, and just kind of pushing it to flourish. Right. So the mistake I made when I first did, I've done a million of these. I have maybe 75. I've done a ton. And I've learned, like, sometimes to lose to win. I apply that strategy to so many things. I had like a poetry one, I had a movie one, and I realized, oh, unless it looks good, nobody's gonna watch it.
Okay.
And when I got to that realization, I said, I really need somebody that's really good at graphics. Like, if that person would just fall on my lap, Lord, like, and then because I have this, I don't know if it's charisma or, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but like,
no, it's definitely charisma.
Oh, okay.
You definitely
Whatever.
bring people in. It's like
Yeah,
yeah,
like a polar attraction or something like that. So
it's a warmth. It's like it's a genuine warmth, and it's like honest. If I'm describing it the right way, like that. That was like my first thoughts of meeting you at where we are now.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I can speak to you and you're a kind person, but there's no BS there.
Right.
You know what I mean, and it draws people in because we're surrounded by BS all the time.
Exactly.
As you were.
Yeah. So I ended up meeting somebody on Instagram and we were chatting, hey, we should do a collaboration. And I was like, sure, let's do a collaboration. And lo and behold, I was like, so what time you want to do this? And like, oh, we're on Australia. And I was like, wait, what? You're in Australia? So what ended up happening was you just had to align the time because their early morning is my late at night, or my early morning is their late at night. And we just made it work. And it flourished into Spectrum Sanctorum, which is the only thing I'm going to name drop here besides the Enzo shoes. But yeah, so the Spectrum Sanctorum is a collaboration between my old site, To Be Seen, and his pop culture spread. And we worked together on this and we built it. In 1 year, we've gotten 410 right now subscribers, nice. 2,000 downloads, 40,000 views, stuff like that.
Wow.
It's not bad. Not bad. No, we didn't go viral or anything because it's very, straightforward and conversational. So it's hard when you have like 9,000 other people doing the same thing. But, we're kind of like poking on the first layer of the vast ocean that is the internets.
It's a good show, guys, though, especially if you're into, which I am. People would never know. I love Star Trek.
Oh, really? Hey.
I love Star Trek. But it's a good show.
Yeah, so you should definitely
things too.
Yeah, you should definitely come Thursdays 9:00 because we're giving away stuff. I can't tell you.
And I love free stuff.
Yeah, everybody loves free stuff.
Are you giving a hint?
Well, it's Star Trek related.
Letter.
Yeah.
What it is.
Yeah, we're gonna give away some cool stuff. Some merch. Right. We're gonna give away merch. So.
Oh, and I've seen the merch. The merch is good. The merch is really good. The merch is good. It's very like 80s vibes, which is everything right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have all of the podcasts. I just wanted to highlight that you're still, like, even in the midst of everything, you're still multitasking. And I think that, again, that's just something important that you have to understand, especially if you're working in the fashion industry. I think a mistake that a lot of us made, me included, back in the day, is that we did not. I think people should start looking at it as a portfolio in a sense. You really do need to diversify your portfolio, especially with everything that's going on now, like across the board, but especially in the fashion industry where layoffs are heavy, and if you're hinging your livelihood, you're hinging your happiness and what fulfills you on this 9 to 5, which is in marketing or fashion or whatever it is, and that is taken away from you at the whim of said people or a P&L sheet, you know what I mean? You're screwed. And so just to know that people are actually diversifying and it comes down to like, what are you willing to do? Because I'm sure there's like sacrifice there. I'm sure there's a lot of juggling there or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's worth it because, your whole happiness and livelihood essentially is not hinged on your job in fashion. And I think that's just something everybody should just start doing, whether you're in fashion or not. You've got to diversify, guys. You've got to start diversifying your professional portfolio because that is just the world that we live in at this point.
Right.
Stepping down off the soapbox, man.
No, it's all good. There's I also had a music podcast called Disc Dungeon, and that's under the To Be Seen umbrella. But there's a song that I listened to that makes a lot of sense. Remember, I was going on about sometimes you have to lose to win.
Yep.
You have to learn. So I became obsessed. I put all my focus into all these things that I was doing because they would generate money, not a lot, but enough to like kind of sustain something that was failing.
Okay.
And I was losing and didn't realize it. I want to say I threw at least $100,000 at that house, and I never recouped it. I basically gave that house away. And I fell in love with one of my old mentors from the shoe business, gave me the CD. I was like, borrow it, take a listen. You might like it. And I fell in love with it. It's a band called Faithless. Mm-hmm. And I came across this song called Lion Tamer when I was the homeowner. And it like kind of dawned on me. It's like, oh my God, I really need to leave, because it said, the lyric goes, if you place a thing in the center of your life that lacks the power to nourish, it will eventually poison the thing that you are and completely control you. No one can be the source of your intent. It lies within you in the center. So that lyric really stuck with me.
Yeah.
And, it means a lot. It's like, oh my God, I'm putting all my focus into this place.
That's sucking everything.
That's sucking it. As soon as I put it in, it's gone. And then it asks for more, because in the wintertime, it was $900 a month to heat the place.
Do what?
To heat the place, because it was oil heat. So, and I had 1,000-gallon tank.
Joe.
So, yeah, it was crazy. Some of the stuff I did was like, why did I leave earlier? Like, I should have just like, what? How much? Forget it. I should have left.
The veins in my head are like,
yeah,
please. But you got to go through those things.
Yeah,
you got to go through those things, and yeah, you learn from them. You won't be doing that again.
Yep, that's for sure. That is for sure.
Well, I think this is a prime time to go into our next segment, which is the future. But in this segment, I want to talk about the future. I want to talk about where we are now, because I do want you to speak a little bit more on what you do at this level in your career, because you're like at one of the higher levels now. Well, I mean,
I'm a manager. I'm not. I'm not a director.
From where
I was, I'm a lot higher than where you
were, and you got to start out from where you were to get to where you are now. And then I want to get into the future. What does that look like? What is your intention? Like, if you could throw a net out there, I always say this, if you could throw a net out there and then pull back everything your heart desires, as far as like your podcast, your career in fashion, whatever it is, maybe you want to go back into politics. No,
so it's no, I'm not going back into politics. That's done. That coffin is closed and it's been buried 6 feet under. So way under. I'm done with that. As far as fashion goes, I'm actually linking up with somebody that has become a professor in pattern making at FIT. So I'm actually going to go for a pattern making class so that I can be even better at this craft, because in my wheelhouse of the fashion industry, everything is about the pattern, the paper pattern, the lines. And the better you are with it, the better understanding of knowledge you have, the better it is for you and the company that you work for. So I have more than a basic understanding, but I want that mastery level.
Love that.
Yeah. So I'm going to go and work with this guy who was a coworker of mine in that old company years and years ago. And he just has a master's in fashion development and planning. And now he's teaching it at FIT. So I'm super excited for that. Wow. Everything goes well. That's what I'll be doing this September. As soon as I get out of work, I'll go right across the street.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, do that and then go home and do my podcast.
Jeez, man. Okay, we're not doing enough. Joe has made it clear. We are lazy AF. Okay? Because you are running circles around us. This man said he is now going to go back to school, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's dope, though, that you're in a constant space of willingness to learn, because and that's what's going to keep you relevant and sustain you in the business.
Especially because, trying to like phrase it, because I know there's certain things I can't say for reasons, but like in an ever-changing manufacturing space with new technologies coming left and right, it's best that you have an understanding of the old ways and then learn yourself in the current ways, because technology is moving very fast and very heavy, and at some point some of the manufacturing is going to be changed with the people like myself that have an understanding of what measurements go where on a foot, and that correlation between how the last that's in the center of the manufacturing piece goes is going to be vital for any company. So especially ours, and that's where I want the success to be, because I feel very blessed to have the opportunity to be working in the company that I'm working with the people that I'm working with.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to shine and make sure that we shine because of it.
Love that.
So that's what's going on with the job, the 9 to 5. For the podcast.
Yeah.
So one of the things I realized is when you interview somebody that's been on the show, you get more eyes on your podcast. So we had one of the actors from a current iteration of Star Trek on. That was
nice.
That guy was amazing, fantastic. I met him at a convention. I've been doing conventions not as the podcaster, but as the podcaster going to a convention, if that makes any sense. I'm basically going in there to spread the name of my podcast, and that worked. We jumped from like 330 to 410 in a month.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it was and then people share it like, oh, this is fun. Share.
That's so dope.
So it kind of grows, and it's like a snowball effect. As it goes downhill, it gets bigger and bigger. So ultimately, the people that inspired us to do the podcast actually guest starred on our podcast, and it was like, what?
Moment.
Yeah, we had a big moment. We had one of the most well-known Star Trek podcasters on our Star Trek podcast.
That's crazy.
And this guy's gone to premieres and everything you can think of. His name's Sean Ferrick, fantastic guy. Mm-hmm. We interviewed him first because he's such a dude, and then we had him on our show and did our normal podcast with him as a special guest. So very lucky there. And then we've got some really, really big names coming in the future once all that stuff is settled. So the goal there is to get your viral moment.
Right.
One of those videos, one of these podcasts that people go, this is crazy. We had one that we were looking at, it's like, oh wow, when it was over, it's like, man, 25 people watching because we do it live.
Yeah.
We had about 20 people watching. This is crazy. And then when the podcast was over and this live stream was ended, it's like, actually, we had 50 people that came in and out. I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
And then, we want to keep that level, that momentum going and having more. I want like 50 people in the chat chatting with me.
Right.
200, 300, 400 people where I have to like charge you to actually pay attention to your chat,
Right.
So that's where I want that to be. And as far as the church goes, I want to be sure that that's sustainable. I'm actually training people because you want to talk about doing a lot. And when I'm in that church, I'm doing the sound, I'm doing the videography, I'm doing photography. And I am like kind of setting up and what's called a grip. I'm the guy that like stages the microphones and things like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, can do all those things. So that's why I call it volunteer paid work. I get paid at stipend, but what I'm doing, it's like volunteer compared to the amount of what I'm doing.
Any volunteers, guys, come on.
Yeah. So I've got a bunch of kids that are helping, kids like teenagers and college kids that are helping me. I'm teaching them how to turn the system on, how to sync the mics, things like that. So
that's incredible, Joe.
Yeah, it's just it's better when they pay attention to it because the minute they go, their mom leaves and they're like, the mom's gone. TikTok, what I mean? Like, like, come on, buddy,
All right, well, that's a prime opportunity for us to now get into our reflection portion of the show. Now, generally, this portion of the show is to share love and light and all the wonderful things that we've learned over our career. But I want to take this time to talk about the craziest thing that you to this day have experienced in your career that left a lasting impression on you. Because I mean, I know there's a plethora.
Yeah. Well,
abundance, but I want to know the craziest.
I have one that I will never forget, and that this guy resigned / was let go because he continually was an agitator towards
Mhm.
management and even up to the CFO.
Mm.
And he had one of the most epic and improper exits I've ever heard and seen in my life. What happened was this guy wanted to move, as I did, from samples into something else, into
Mhm.
more um, hands-on with in the business facet.
Mhm.
And he had the opposite of me. I'm cool, calm, collected.
Mhm.
He's hot-tempered, ready to blow.
Mhm.
And he went on an interview for a position with the vice president of the brand, and the director of the brand, and they asked him, "Where do you see yourself?" And he automatically goes, "CEO of the company." Like,
Oh, okay.
and they went, ha, 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 thinking it was a joke.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And he was like, they
All right.
disrespected me. They laughed when I said I wanted to be CEO. And I was like, oh, buddy. All right. Well, that happens. Don't take it personal. They might have thought you were joking. It was just a moment of levity. They didn't think that, whatever. They didn't mean to slight you. That
Right.
wasn't their intention.
Right.
No. Okay. And then he went for another position, didn't get it because of the same type of hostility he had. So he started to get really hostile with his boss, who had helped him under duress when he was in financial restraints.
Oh.
Yeah. And he went after everybody. So what happened was he decided, I'm going to leave and I want this money. If I don't get this money, raise hell. So they
What?
said, we're going to have to part ways, buddy. And they did. So this is why a lot of companies have a restriction on mass email. You can't mass email in a lot of companies because of this guy that I worked with. He decided on his last day before he left the building that he wrote this very scathing letter. He said,
No.
I can no longer work with a company that does not value my ideas and visions for the future, because there's personnel here that deem it better to laugh in my face than take what I have to say on face value. And they are. And named everybody and copied the CEO, the
No.
CFO, the COO, management,
What?
yeah, and everybody in the company. So he didn't just like go, all right, bye guys. He went, F you, F you, F you. And
Wow.
and then he goes and has to do, what will I do next? I'm going to go to Africa and help children and start a painting career. And it was just like, what?
So, what? Oh, yeah. Well, no, because you're no longer going to work in this industry. That's
no. And ironically, he did end up back in the industry. I mean, I don't know what he's doing now. I don't know.
They were desperate.
Yeah, but that was the most insane.
He went in alphabetical order, and
yeah, he was like
was pissed,
A, B, C, and D. All right, y'all motherfuckers. So that's
wild.
Isn't that wild?
That's wild.
And the entire company, like I remember the mailroom guy came into our office after they escorted him out. Everybody got the email. The mailroom guy, the cleaning guy, like
I'm sorry,
secretaries. Everybody basically came out of their offices like, what just happened? Like, I don't believe this. Am I reading this real? I wish I would have kept that email.
Oh my God.
It was epic.
Oh my God.
Just like standards of what not to do, but yeah.
No, but there's many of said person out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we experience them every day.
Yep.
And they're just ready to blow. We just wait and pause and wait for them to make their exit in a grand way.
Yeah.
All right. That was amazing. I love that story.
Isn't that crazy?
First of all, the unmitigated gall.
The gall of this dude. Like, first of all, he's like, yo, I demand a raise and I demand a better position.
What made him think that was like the move? Like, what gave him that?
I really don't know. To this day, I was like, I never got to ask him because like he sent that email and goes, well, take care, guys. They're going to fire me. And everybody was like, what? And then then all of a sudden, bing, 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 like you got mail. Like that went off in the whole office. And everybody
looked out their cubicles.
Yeah, everybody was reading that email like, what the hell? And then they leave like, who them? Who this? What that one? It was.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we can't mass email anybody.
No. Yeah. Like you have to have like a certain level in order
to mass. That's smart. It was bound to happen.
I was there when the guy did it that made it happen.
That was bound to happen.
Crazy.
Words of light. On another note, words of light. Things that I'm not going to say 3, but 3 things that you wish you would have known then that you know now.
Well, 3 things that I wish I would have known then would be like where I would focus my investment time. And when I say investment time, I mean the time that I'm allotting myself. Mm-hmm. There were certain people that I invested in that I did wrongly. So sometimes when you're in the business, you don't invest in the people that are aside you. You invest in the people that are above you, so to speak, because if you can build a good relationship with them, it'll take you further. And my bosses and colleagues, they really kind of elevated me to a level where it was like, wow, I'm doing this now, so I feel like it was important to build the relationships that I've built. And, I don't have a problem connecting with people. That's not my issue. It's just the timing of when I was doing it. I wish I would have done it earlier. And I wish I would have, in reflection, done more webinars when they were first happening. I feel like I missed out on so much that I caught up with doing the children's companies.
Okay.
They were like, learn as much as you can and bring it back and help the company. It's like, okay. I did so many webinars in those 4 years at the children's company. And I would be like, we're switching to clay to prevent mold instead of the little stickers, the micro patch stickers, because the clay absorbs so much better and it gets thicker and da-da-da-da. And then they were like, what? But it costs more. It's like, it'll cheapen out over time. And I'm sure they're using it now. But yeah, there was so many of those things. And I wish I was doing a project at the children's company where we were changing the development of plastics and not using your standard plastic anymore. There's a material that you can use that actually doesn't harm the planet.
Okay.
And it's a Bio Plus because when it breaks down, it turns into minerals.
Okay.
So I wish I would have gotten all the information. Like sometimes it's the mistake you make is not retaining all the information and then placing it in a space that you would always have access, because your backup hard drives will break. Power fluctuations in a storm will take those out. Sometimes you still, even though we're in a vast digital age, still need to print something out. You still need to put it in a folder and tuck it away, because where I am now, if I had the name of that company that made those bags, I'd probably be in an even better place, because I could offer a new level of sustainability, because sustainability is the way right now. So those are my 3 things.
Okay. All right. I like it. And last but not least, any inspirational words for any individual that is on a similar journey that you were on, that maybe one day wants to go into politics or wants to have.
Don't go into politics. There you go. You're welcome.
That's what. Or wants to, have 3,000 podcast shows.
All right. So the biggest word of advice I can give you is, don't tell me that you don't have time, because I am living proof that there is all the time in the world. We only have one life to live. We got to make the best of it. So for certain, it's all about, you need to learn how to manage your time. And time management is crucial, because if I've got 45 shoes that I got to send out to have people test, I need to make sure that I get all the information back in 2 weeks. So that means I need to log everything, ensure that I send these emails 3 days after so that they get me the information back in 3 days. I have to balance everything. I need to make sure that the sound gauge on the EQ is at a certain level because I know I'm dealing with a nasally person and high pitches are going to freak the system and start making metallic noises and freak people out. It's all about time management, and it's so crucial. And that's something, if I could go back in time and go, younger self, what's important? Managing your time. Don't sit on your duff and play video games. Stop eating that pizza. Stop eating those chocolates. And then I'll be like nice and thin and beautiful next time. No, I'm just kidding.
You the way you are, Joe.
No, but for real, it's crazy. Like the amount of time I spent having fun, I don't regret it.
Right.
Because you need those moments.
Yeah.
I just regret spending so much time in them, like talking to people that weren't leading me anywhere.
Got you. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like you got to make sure that the people that you spend your time with are going to give you something back. I made sure to bring in close some of the people that have brought me up. And that's imperative because I learned a lot. I hope I've taught them something. Maybe it's not something fashion wise. I'm sure I've taught people stuff.
Yeah.
In this industry, things for sure. But people that have worked in a factory since they were young, maybe I didn't teach them that, but maybe I taught them something about investing or, okay, here's this one little thing about Excel. If you click this, and compress, now the sheet's smaller. So you can email it to more people.
Nice. Yeah.
Why? And you tell me that earlier. You never asked me. You know what I mean? It was like, yeah. It's one of those things like, hey, I'm willing to share with you. We share and we both grow.
Right.
So, it's all about building great relationships and being sure that you're not wasting time with the wrong people that are equally wasting time.
Right.
So,
okay. Yeah. All right. So time management, valuable relationships. Don't eat the cupcakes.
Don't eat the cupcakes.
Or the raw cookie dough, as I was infamous for doing.
Oh, man. Now that's
literally just broke that addiction. It was bad.
Good thing you did, because 8 people are in the hospital right now eating raw cookies.
Oh, okay.
Good on you. Good timing.
Look at God. Looking at the butt for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Joe, it has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Thank you guys for tuning in. That is our show. I'm Shaina Herrera.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
Absolutely. You see, ultimate professional.
That's because I'm so used to everything I do. Hey, thanks for that. Oh, look who's in our chat room. I hope you like, share, and subscribe. You'll hear me like, I'm surprised you don't say it at work. Hey, good morning. Like, share, and subscribe.
But you know what? How do you not mix that? Okay, I know we were closing, but this is a real question, because I'm in awe and I'm baffled. How do you not get the wires crossed?
I have spent so many years being in so many different things. Like there's a Joe that is a friend, and there's the Joe that is a neighbor, and I'm many people. I'm everyday people, but I'm many different everyday people. I just it's like switches in my brain that go, okay, church time. Oh, good morning. How are you? Can I help you with the?
I can see that.
Yeah. Oh, it's work time. Hey, good morning. How's it going? It's good to see you. All right. So we got.
Hey.
Yeah. It's a friendly, and people remember me from the. Joe, that friendly guy, and he's Joe, such a nice guy. I heard that, and that's because that's the work, Joe, and I'm very courteous, and I'm very careful with my words at work.
You are.
And then there's podcast Joe that's like, hey, bang, 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 but I know podcast Joe exists between, 6:00 on Friday night or 8:00 on Thursday night. You know what I mean? Like I'm only that person, very small windows. And it's just, time management again. It's like, okay, it's work time. Okay.
Time management again.
Yeah. Hey, like it's a different
time management. Yeah.
And then once I'm in that role and I'm in that space, the switch is on, and my focus is to this. Okay. So like if I'm in the church, my focus is I'm listening to how the sound is coming out, because I know certain preachers have certain voice tones that will throw the system off the way I do it. and then I have to flip the system in order to get it to sound proper. Mm-hmm. You know, and then when I'm at work, I'm thinking, all right, well, how can I condense things in a way that it's easiest for somebody else if I'm not there to find something, because it has to exist without you.
Shout out to Joe, because I hate when I have to pick up somebody else's work and it's like this.
Yeah.
And I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
The fact that you even think about that while you're in the midst of your task, shout out to you. Joe is the MVP of all things. Man, get you a Joe, guys.
Yeah.
Good gravy.
Yeah.
And that is our show. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Shaina Herrera.
And I'm Joe Dove, and I've been Upfront with Shaina Herrera.